And good afternoon. This is Michael Harding.
And Christina Harding.
Here with On the Arts. And our purpose for On the Arts is to blow the lid off all of those little secrets that we have around town, those little artistic opportunities and the artistic secrets that people don't necessarily know about that we want to make sure that you do. One of the worst things we can think of is for there to be this fantastic opportunity, whether it be at a museum, whether it be in a theater or in a concert hall somewhere, and have somebody say, oh, that's the best kept little secret that we've got here in St. George. We want you to know about it. We don't want it to be a secret at all. Now, we have a very special guest with us today. We have Mayor John Pike of St. George. How are you doing today?
I'm doing great. How are you guys doing?
We're wonderful.
Good.
Yeah.
You look good.
Well, thank you.
I mean,
So do you.
you guys have faces for TV. I have a face
Do we
for
really?
radio.
What? No. It's hard.
Which is interesting that you say that, because you are indeed on camera right now.
Oh boy, I better behave.
If you guys do want to see what the mayor looks like, to see what a real radio face looks like, as he said, no, actually not quite at all. He's a television face. Check us out at Radio St. George on Facebook, or you can also follow us on YouTube. We have a YouTube live feed. And also, this radio broadcast, as well as the video broadcast, will be archived. So you can go to Radio St. George to see it, or just go to the On the Arts Facebook page, and you should be able to discover this whole interview.
I see us.
Are we
We're
all
all there.
Okay, there's
We're all there.
There we go.
You guys have to be close.
Absolutely. We're married. We don't have to be close. We share everything, even the airwaves.
Even the airway, yeah. Stardom. Yeah, there we go.
Well, I tell you, this is actually, it's a little bit of a departure of what we usually do here on the Arts, having the mayor on. But in thinking why we would have the mayor, an official of St. George, on this show, I mentioned that it's about exposing the artistic opportunities that are here down in St. George, both to participate in and to observe. And I've always been struck at how important the arts are to any community. When you look back through history, and I'm going to go into theater professor mode for just one moment.
Here we go.
There we go.
This will be good.
Now we're going to be sitting here. Yeah,
You two
okay.
imitate my
Can we
students
be
and
the
fall
students
asleep.
and fall asleep? Yeah. Okay.
No, I'm happy to say they're always looking very, very intently at me. I never know if it's because I have, something on my face or what. But if you go back through history, and this is all the way back that we can go, all the way to who were the Mycenaeans, right even before the Greeks. If you look at every major society since then, over the centuries, every society had an arts focus of some sort. Sometimes it was for religious art and religious services and things of that sort. Sometimes it was for entertainment purposes, to distract the people from politics, if you will, when you go to ancient Rome.
Oh,
Boy, that's smart, isn't it?
All of a sudden we see the mayor thinking, I'm starting a theater. But you also you go to the Greeks, and it really was not just an escape and entertainment, but it was about philosophy. It was about sharing information. It was basically the YouTube or the Facebook of their time. And even beyond that, you go to every single country in the world, and I'm willing to step on a limb for this and say it really is every country, there is some kind of focus on the arts. And I do find it interesting that every single country that lost that focus on the arts, every single society that lost that focus and decided to focus solely on something else and basically abandon the arts, fell. And I think that's just a historical fact, going back and looking at that. So I'm always wary of any kind of a society or a group or a country or a city or what have you that eliminates the arts. And of course, that's a constant debate, both politically and also educationally and artistically. Should the arts be supported by the government? Should the arts be subsidized? Which is an interesting question when you think less than 1% of the population actually goes to a live theater event. So why should we keep it around? And my argument is always that look back through history. When the arts were eliminated, people fell and societies fell and such. So I think it's a very special honor that we have having a representative of St. George and politics. And please know, this is not a political ambush to get more funding for the arts. Rap tax, come to us.
Well, and you've come to the right place anyway, because, I think about it, as the last time I saw To Kill a Mockingbird, and I honestly, I can't remember where it was that I saw it. But I went and saw it. I can't remember if it was up in Cedar City.
That was about, 5
years
ago?
ago.
So,
But, when you go to something pick what your choice is, whether it's a musical or Shakespeare or any other play, the symphony, ballet, opera, whatever it might be, Broadway theater. I just think there's something that for anyone who who will just listen, even if it may not be your cup of tea, but you might be surprised. But I think most people would be touched in some way, and I don't know how you can go and watch, I just picked one, To Kill a Mockingbird, and not be touched, and not have yourself kind of say, my problems today, aren't really that big. I maybe have a little different, brighter outlook, as a result.
Yeah.
So, you go see, there's a message of some kind in almost anything we go see, hear, experience in the arts. And that's why for me, even though, when my parents used to take me to Utah Opera Company up in Salt Lake, frankly, most of them I didn't really care for that much. But there were some that kind of the big ones, and Puccini and some of the real notable composers and so forth, and playwrights. I still remember today, and those arias really get to me. They move me, and my parents sang, more than I do. I sing a little bit, but they sing a lot, and those things just change me. And so I don't expect that everything in the arts will affect everyone the same way.
Yes.
But I'll bet you everyone would be affected somehow, probably for the good. So to me, there's that. But then there are countless studies, I'm sure you both know, that show that when you spend money on the arts, it comes back manyfold. It's worth investing in as an individual, as a business, as a government. It is worth the investment. I've seen many studies on it. And so for St. George, while you might say that our arts venues that we own, some that we operate, gallery and so forth, or museum, you might say they're a black hole. Okay, maybe they lose money on the city books, but they don't really. They bring back manyfold in terms of the economic impact that draws people here, that keeps people here. One more stop, one more day, whatever it may be, that helps private business, and it helps our reputation, which just it just keeps going and building, and so it's worth it. It's worth it economically. I believe it's worth it on a human factor, and really helping us to, as they say, be somehow different from the beasts of the field. We're different in that way, and I'm not even sure, maybe they probably would enjoy it too. My dog used to enjoy music, but I don't know, that's probably enough but on that topic. But I think it's very important. It certainly is to me. It's been proven to me over and over again, both personally and as the CEO of the city.
Well, I want to let you know that's why I'm excited to have you on. Is we did have you on, well, this was back probably last October, November.
Yeah.
And you were very passionate about it. And please know, yes, we have in the studio today the mayor of St. George. One of the things about this show, and I'm very proud of this. And Christina, we've had many a conversation about this. This isn't a show about politics. This isn't a show about government or funding or things of that sort. This is a show about the arts, and it's important.
Bring a community together.
Yeah.
Yes.
And have people on here that we can get to know as people, not just their jobs, not just as a sculptor, not just as an actor, not just as a composer, or even in this case, somebody who works with the politics of the city. This is about people and how they feel about it.
Yes.
And one of my all-time favorite movies, and actually Christina and I, we've had not debates on this, but we do disagree, I think. The movie Mr. Holland's Opus.
Oh, no.
That's right. No, regardless of how you feel about that movie, and we have had discussions about this, I happen to really like it.
I do
too.
Well, good for you guys. Okay,
Well, let's just stare
It's
at
okay.
Christine.
We're all entitled to our own opinions.
And that's what the beauty of
Yeah.
art, right? Yeah, we all have our opinion.
There's this wonderful scene in there where, and I keep, as much as I say this is not a political show, I keep sounding like I'm going political. Please know that's not my intention. But there's this wonderful scene where there's a debate over whether the arts program should be cut from the schools. And, there's an argument made that we need to be focusing our time and our money on the 3 R's, which I guess those have been redefined in modern day, but, the 3 R's, reading, writing, and arithmetic. And Mr. Holland, played by Richard Dreyfuss, I think beautifully, has a wonderful statement that, regardless of how you feel about the movie, I think is wonderful, where he says, if you eliminate the arts, if you eliminate theater and music and art, sculpture, and things of that sort, there'll be nothing left to write about.
There you go.
I love it.
I think that's just wonderful.
Yeah.
Well, I agree. In fact, one of the things, and I certainly didn't invent this by any means, but we talk a lot about STEM. I would really just say, why not add the A in there and have it be STEAM?
Absolutely.
For arts. And
you got Cy Coleman, steam heat.
Yeah,
there we go.
Yeah, I mean, like I say, I didn't
Cole
invent
Porter,
that.
sorry about that.
Yeah, I think it takes there's a balanced approach that needs to be taken, and obviously we need to emphasize science, technology, and let's see what else is it, engineering or English, and it's engineering and math. We need to focus on those things for our our economy, our make sure our kids are learning everything they can.
Yeah.
But again, it's been proven many times that if you play the piano, you're going to be better at math.
Right.
So I just think there is a real value in just so many different ways to studying, experiencing the arts.
Yes. Yeah.
Well, I think something that we're trying to expose here is the fact that there are so many different kinds of arts as well. We talk a lot about theater. Both Christine
so far.
and I.
Next month
far.
it'll be music. Yeah,
we've got a real focus on that. But everybody has all of these different opportunities for different experiences. You talk about To Kill a Mockingbird. Yeah, there was the play version that was done at Utah Shakespeare Festival. I'm sure it's been done at some of the theaters around here, a few times. But there's also the novel. And, there's art that's inspired by it, paintings, and there are sculptures and things. You mentioned that people would experience different things in different ways. Absolutely. And we have a ton of opportunities around here.
I was recently on, online, because I am online, and I decided to type in stgeorgechamber.com, and I was amazed at how many things came up on this website of Tuacahn, Brigham's Playhouse, O.C. Towner Amphitheater, Southwest Symphony Orchestra, Center for the Arts at Kayenta, DSU Theater, SGMT, Celebrity Concert Series at the Cox, the DeForest Center, and the St. George Art Festival. And I thought, my goodness, this place is full of such richness and diversity of the arts.
I need a break from the arts.
Well, and we were talking about it before we went on the air. It's hard to get to everything.
Yes.
So for those that are saying there's nothing to do,
no. Just go online and look them all up.
Yep.
Mayor, what right now do you think is something that you're interested in the arts specifically? Is there anything new popping up in St. George that you would like our listeners to be aware of, or something that you recently attended that you were excited about?
Well, gosh, I don't know. I guess I don't know that there's anything that I'd say is new, but it's kind of when you look at the shows that Tuacahn does, and you look at the other events that they bring in, and right here at Dixie State University, I happened to, on, Friday night, I was at a kind of a private event up in Salt Lake with David Archuleta singing.
I've heard of him.
Yes, I heard of him. Yeah. Pretty good singer.
Yeah, I'd like to hook him up with my daughter, but that's okay.
Yeah. But he mentioned to me, and I told him where I was from. I got to meet him, and he said, I'm going to be in St. George in December. And I said, oh yeah, out to Tuacahn. He says, no, Dixie State this year. So he's gonna be right here in our home turf.
Did I not mention that? I'm sorry.
Yeah,
no.
I think it's like December 3rd or something, right that. like that. And so, you know, my
Santa.
guess is probably most of the tickets are already sold.
Yeah, I was going
I think
to
you
say
just
Santa
say he's
came
gonna
early, but
perform.
okay.
Yeah, but anyway, right here in our city, we have
Wow.
the Utah Symphony coming to town. I think it's this month. It's like in the next week or two. And so we have a wonderful Southwest Symphony, but also, and they would, I'm sure, acknowledge that to have another professional institution that's, you know, many, many years old from, you know, from the Wasatch Front be here on our campus. Those are great opportunities to expose yourself or your kids or grandkids. And again, not that everyone's going to like everything, but they might. You might be surprised. And next thing you know, you've got a kid who says, I want to be in the marching band. Well, that's not the Utah Symphony, but, you know, you don't.
It's music.
It's
It gets
music.
you going.
Yeah.
Inspired.
So anyway, I think there's so many things like that, whether it's the piano guys were just here for the hospital's ribbon cutting for their expansion. They were here last Wednesday night. They'll be here again. I think, I always forget. I think they're at Tuacahn in November.
Yeah, they
or something.
added a performance for them, I think.
Yep, they did. So we have so many opportunities. I'm not really sure sometimes how we get them, you know, and not that we get everything. We'll get more as we grow, but it's sort of like a lot of other things. If you use it, more will come. If you build it, they will come. You know, whether you fly from the airport or you go to these different concerts, more will come because the word gets around. There's a market in southern Utah. So whether it's in Cedar City or St. George or Ivans out at Kayenta or Hurricane, you know, for their plays, Brigham's Playhouse in Washington, SGMT, St. George Musical Theater here in St. George, Carrie Perry's Stage Door at the Electric Theater.
Electric Theater
They're
downtown,
right now they're doing
Young Frankenstein.
Young Frankenstein,
Oh my gosh, I got to get to that.
Yes.
It's Frankenstein.
Yes.
Frankenstein, you know, Frau Brüche.
Yes.
You know. Anyway, so many things from the movie, and it's
Yeah.
fun to see like you say, whether it's reading the books or and experiencing that way, or seeing it on stage, or seeing a movie version of your favorite play. You know, it's just. I don't know. I think there's so many ways we can get glued. I'm holding up my phone for you.
Put it down, people.
Yeah, there's so many things. We got to put them down and go experience whatever your choice is. But there's and don't think of it as the arts. Think of it as, you know, go just see Susie Lafayette be Bloody Mary in South Pacific.
A local,
she's a local
Support our
celebrity.
community,
Everyone knows if you're in business and you go to the chamber, you know Susie Lafayette. And so anyway. Just lots of fun.
That's what's great, is going to support people that you see at work, and they're just having fun in the evening, and you go and support them, and that uplifts the spirits and takes down barriers and walls, you know, and creates stronger friendships, I think. Michael and I have had this discussion too about downtown St. George. We are noticing the beautiful sculptures that are along Main.
Okay, we're about to get serious here.
But there's one that Michael had a big question about. He wondered if you knew anything about it. There's this. You want to take this?
No,
your concern?
If by question you mean big concern,
it's pretty
if by
big.
question you mean sweaty palms, if by question you mean absolute terror, why is there a huge spider in the middle of Main Street? It's a beautiful piece of art, but I'm sorry, I'm going to stay away from Judd's for a while. I'm just going to say, just because.
That's what they're afraid of. That is part of the Art Around the Corner exhibit. And so to make you feel better, Michael, it's only there for a year.
Fantastic.
And it won't have babies, so you're okay.
As far as we know.
But I know how good that art is.
But it is fun because that artist, he's from Utah County, and so he was here for kind of the unveiling, you know. And every year, about April, they shift.
The art hatches.
It hatches, And so you'll notice, in fact, we have some people, and this is how art is, right? This is just what we've been describing. Some people love the spider, some hate it, some probably tolerate it, but it's only here for a year unless you buy it, Michael. You can buy it.
I'm willing.
You can have my next 5 paychecks.
I would be in heaven with that.
There you go. But really, it's an opportunity because there are about 22 to 24 pieces every year that are on loan from artists from wherever. I mean, most of them I'll give you are from Utah, but we have many that are from other surrounding states, even far away sometimes, who submit a piece or more and say, I'd like to have it considered for this outdoor public art gallery. And so that's the cool thing is it's on loan for a year. It's insured by the city.
Wow.
And it's in partnership with this 501c3 organization called Art Around the Corner.
Great.
They have one part-time person that helps coordinate it all, but otherwise it's all volunteer. It's a board, and they do all the work.
And do they give tours?
Yeah, they will do that if you ask them to.
Oh, how exciting!
Yeah, and they have of course a write-up on each one of them, and they are all for sale. And that's the hope is that there will be enough that are sold by the year's end, meaning the end of March of 2019, that will keep artists interested in and new artists interested in submitting their work. And so that's the frogs. Have you seen the frogs at Town Square? Well, that's where they started. They started in Art Around the Corner, and the city bought them.
Oh, fantastic.
And,
wonderful.
And, Mr. Lincoln and Mr. Washington that are on the front steps of the county building, they originated in Art Around the Corner, and the county decided to purchase those as kind of a bookends. Go look on Tabernacle, you'll see them sitting out in front of the county building. So,
that's terrific.
There are some that we buy. Mostly we're hoping that private businesses and individuals will buy them, and that it'll build and they'll spread, not just downtown, but starts downtown and will spread
out through the whole city. Yeah. Wow.
That's the vision.
Oh, that's beautiful.
Yeah.
That's
started,
exciting.
by the way, it really started by one of our local sculptors, Eldine Trueblood. It was her vision, and Sarah Urquhart, former Senator Urquhart's wife, they've now moved to Salt Lake, but really the two of them are kind of who got it started.
That's
and
fantastic.
It's been going for, I don't know how many years, maybe 12 years now.
That's so great to do that in our city and make it beautiful. That just, what a touch,
Well, I have to say, if you are watching on Radio St. George or on YouTube, you get to see how passionate Mayor Pike is about this, and which is why I love having him here. And by the way, last time that you were here in the studio, you were here with a gentleman named Paul Weens,
right?
A very, very talented musician.
We'll be on in a couple of weeks. Yeah, we'll be back on in November.
But I'll tell you, you're passionate about. You had been coming to a particular theatrical production that I'll leave for just a little bit here. But the passion is wonderful. I'd like to know a little bit more about you, Mayor Pike, and your relationship to the arts. You mentioned that your parents were singers and such. And I also, when I did my stalking of you on online, which we do before every show.
You got to do that.
Absolutely.
It's all
I kept
free.
finding this medical administration. Is that where you're from? What is this?
Well, okay. So
Here
let's
we
see.
go.
What was it? Now I can't think of his name, so I'll just bag that thought. And I'll just go straight to my history. So I was born and raised up in Salt Lake. I went to the University of Utah and Westminster College for my degrees. In finance and in healthcare and marketing. So I have what's called an MBA, of course, but it's really I've got an emphasis in healthcare and marketing. So I've worked for Intermountain Healthcare in one way or another for 28 years. So I've been mostly on the physician relations and contracting side of things, but I also have been in project management and was an assistant administrator at Dixie Regional at one time. And I managed the project of the new hospital 15 years ago.
Wow.
Now, I still call it the new hospital, but that was 15 years ago.
It
And they have a whole new building.
Yeah, everyone says, what? But
yeah.
New hospital? But so now I'm really just involved more on the health insurance side of things. Select Health is the subsidiary of Intermountain Healthcare that is our insurance company. So that's what I do. That's my healthcare administration that you saw, and so that's my day job. That's what pays the bills, at least the big bills.
The ones that count.
And the city is still, although it doesn't really feel like it, it's a part-time job. The mayor job probably before too long won't be anymore. It'll probably need to be a full-time job, but because we're so complex and big and it just requires does require more attention.
Yeah.
So anyway, I worked for Intermountain Healthcare for 5 years in Salt Lake, had an opportunity to come here. And like so many other people, I thought, that sounds fun. Let's go try St. George. And And so growing up, kind of going back to that, it wasn't an option in our home to not play the piano. So me and my 5 siblings, we all learned how to play the piano, and in a couple of our cases, the organ, and a little bit of guitar, and some of us learned a few other things, but and then we all sang. And we were certainly not the Osmonds or anything like that, but we all sang.
You were the Pikes.
We were the Pikes. And in Salt Lake, it was kind of a small world then, small town. And so we certainly did a lot of singing just in our neck of the woods. And my parents did a lot more. And while again they wouldn't necessarily be known statewide, they were pretty well known in Salt Lake. My dad is still alive. He's 81. He's probably sung at. And we lost track at 5,000 funerals.
Wow.
So, that's what he did. Some people golf. My dad sings. And he sang everywhere all the time for anything and everything. And most of those were not paid gigs. Some of them were, but he certainly didn't get rich at it, and that wasn't his career. But that's something that we love to do. And for about 20 years, my parents and my siblings, we did a Christmas concert at the University of Utah at Libby Gardner Hall. If you've ever been in that hall, it's an incredibly great place to perform in terms of, vocal or instrumental music. It's incredible. And so we got to do that because of a friend of my dad's who paid for the hall, and it was a free concert. Just did it every year once, filled it, 600 or 700 people, and that was just our gift to our friends and extended family and friends. And that's what we did for 22 years, and most of that I was living down here, so it was a little tricky. I was the only one living down here, but
it's quite a commute.
Yeah, but we always in the middle of it did the Hallelujah chorus. And I played the organ, and my brother played the piano, and then everyone in the hall sang it. And my dad handed out music, and he was the conductor, and everyone sang. And so those are the kinds of things that shaped me when I was a little kid. I was probably 12. I started turning pages in the annual Messiah Sing-In that are kind of our, I don't know what you'd call it, but kind of our local community did. It was more than one church. It was multiple churches. And my dad was usually involved either as a soloist or a director, a conductor of it. And I turned the pages for the organist just because it was so crazy someone had to.
Yeah.
That's how I developed a love for the Messiah, even though I couldn't sing it all. I couldn't play it all. But there are certain things that when you're that age, it leaves an impression on you.
Yeah.
So that's what I grew up with. I grew up going to PMT, Pioneer Memorial Theater, up at the University of Utah.
And now PTC, Pioneer Theater Company.
It's called now. We had season tickets every year, and so we did that. I saw Max Robinson.
Very good friend, Max Robinson.
I knew you'd know him.
He's a good friend of mine, actually. And
he is such a good actor.
Yes.
Robert Peterson.
Yes.
Keith Engar.
If I can just throw out a story about Bob Peterson. I had the pleasure of working with him a few times up at Pioneer. And, very, very, you can hear his voice. If you go to Temple Square, that is his voice.
That's right.
He's known for that. He did some Broadway work, some understudy work. He did Man of La Mancha how many times?
Yeah, amazing.
And what I love about him, such a straight-laced individual, a straight-laced man, very strict. I want to let you know a little something about him. He is the reason that playing poker has been banned backstage at Pioneer Theater Company. And this is a true story. When I was there, I was doing Rosencrantz and Guildenstern Are Dead there. And there are many scenes where a lot of us were just downstairs. I played Horatio. And in that particular version, all of the Hamlet characters, except for Rosencrantz and Guildenstern, are on stage only every once in a while. So there's a lot of time downstairs. Yeah. And one day I just got bored, so I pulled out a deck of cards. And I started, hey, who plays poker? Da-da-da-da-da. Started dealing them out, and it was kind of like I'd pulled out a Ouija board or something like that. A lot of the regular actors, and Max Robinson was one of them, just kind of backed up a little bit. And I was like, what have I done here? And they said, we don't play poker backstage. Apparently, in a production that had only been a few years before, and that was back in, Rosencrantz and Guildenstern, I think it was 1999. So this was just a few years before that. Apparently, there had been a game downstairs that was so intense, and Bob had a fantastic hand. And the pot had gotten big, and I think they were just, betting Fritos or something.
Yeah.
It wasn't even something really all that intense. But it had gotten so serious that his entrance was coming up, and he knew it, but he could not let that hand go. So he missed his entrance, and actors on stage were covering for him. And when he was approached, but this is Bob Peterson, he can get away with some stuff. None of the rest of us could. But apparently, the stage manager ran down looking for him, and he said, "I've got a good hand. This only comes in one in about 100,000 hands. You've got to let me play this." And I have to admit, from
and
that
they
day,
let him?
Well, what are they going to do? It's Bob Peterson. He'd already
wow.
missed his entrance. And, the actors on stage had covered for him. But from that point on, it is not only taboo, but it is illegal to play poker downstairs during a performance at Pioneer.
That is awesome. Well, I only did one show at PTC, and it was called Amal and the Night Visitors.
Oh, yeah.
You did
And
not.
I was Amal.
You did not.
So that tells you how far ago long ago that was. I was 12
he's
or 13.
a little younger. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
And I was still a soprano. And which is really why I got to do it, was because there were two of us. It was double cast, and so I was kind of the not the understudy, but I was only going to do a few of the performances. But they were nervous because the more experienced young actor, he was a year older than me, and they were nervous about his voice changing. And guess what? It started to. So I ended up. They had to do some rewriting for him, and I ended up doing half or more of the performances. Which
My name is Amal.
Exactly. And it really goes high. So
Yes, it does.
anyway, it's that was the green room. I know right where you're talking about.
Right.
And
For the program.
and it was great. I loved being involved in that. And even though I never did another one there, we always went to the shows, and I would go down and sneak through the back door and say hi to my friends during intermission.
Oh,
Right.
how fun.
I remember, you could get lost in the hallways downstairs at PTC. I remember we were doing As You Like It there. This was, I think this was back in 1999 as well. I did quite a few shows at that time. And have you ever seen This Is Spinal Tap?
I don't recall that.
It's it's the mockumentary about the rock band Spinal Tap.
Gotcha.
And there's that wonderfully iconic scene where they get lost in the basement heading to the stage. And, they're saying, "Hey, are you ready to rock and roll?" And they're running and they get lost down there. They find the steam tunnels. They find a custodian who says, "Oh, no, you got to take a right at the stairs there and go back up." Well, I always used to make fun of that until I did get lost during a performance down there. But they have all of these, little tunnels and hallways and such. And it was during intermission, and I just wanted a soda. So I found the soda machine. And here comes this little old guy. He was one of the audience members. Apparently he had gotten lost too, or what have you. But it was really wonderful. I shared a drink with him, and apparently he didn't recognize me, even though I was wearing period clothes. And he just started telling me about how, I don't care for this production at all, and da-da-da-da-da. And so I shared a Coke with him, just like, "Oh, yeah, I see what hey, I got to go. I'm working over there." He's like, "Oh, what are you doing?" "Well, I'm in the show." And, "Oh, I'm so sorry," and da-da-da-da. But it's amazing who you meet in the basement of these places.
It is.
Oh,
Yep.
wow. Oh.
Well, those are pretty great places, and lots of wonderful people performed there. I saw Robert Peterson do so many things, Man of La Mancha, as you said, and I remember, I'm pretty sure. Let's see, did he do it at Shakespeare much later? I thought he did.
Yeah, that was back in, I think, about 2002, 2003, somewhere around there.
Wow.
And they're just, I don't know, a lot of great ways to interpret that, but nobody I've heard or seen has done it better than Bob Peterson.
Robert Goulet envies Bob
Exactly,
Peterson.
exactly. Camelot, wasn't it, that he understudied?
Yes.
Robert Goulet. Anyway, and he was here in St. George. Did you know that? He lived here for the last few years of his life.
I heard something about that. I heard
he had a stroke.
Yeah, that's right. Unfortunately, after I worked with him in the late 90s, I lost touch with him.
Yeah.
All I know is he got knee surgery and he was playing racquetball and loved it.
Yep.
And so he got his happiness back.
Yeah.
He did.
Yeah.
And his daughter and wife live here. As far as I know, they still live here, and son, and I don't know who others in their family, but what a great tradition. And his daughter, Julie, has been involved here with SGMT.
Yes, I've worked with her.
Yeah,
Yes,
yeah.
lovely lady.
So,
Yeah.
Anyway.
That's what makes this area so neat is that the people that live here that we don't know, how many celebrities really do live here among all of us little, you know.
Well, a lot of people don't know Del Parson, who is a painter. If you've lived in Utah, if you've ever been to a church anywhere in the world, and not just even LDS, this painting is well known even outside. I was raised Lutheran, and I knew of this image. He's quite a prolific painter.
Yes, he is.
But he also one of the most common, if you will, that's the wrong word for it, but one of the most well-known portraits of Christ in today's day and age was actually painted by him. He lives up in Cedar City, actually, but he works
right here
here.
at Dixie State
That's
University.
the red robe, the one with him in the red robe, isn't it? Yeah. Not that there aren't others, but that it stands out in my mind. I think I know which one you're talking about.
That's made its rounds. I mean, even outside of the LDS Church. Of course, he is of the LDS faith, but
and people are surprised when they find out that he teaches here at Dixie State University. They're in shock.
He's taught kids of my friends that he's just passing on a great legacy to others.
Well, and we also have people who come here to retire, if you will, or in a sense, we have a gentleman named Rob Goodman here, who it was a pleasure to find out about him. He was a former artistic director of Milwaukee Repertory Theater.
Yeah, he's retired right here.
And he's just here.
He's here, retired. Yes.
But, and it's weird. And we also have Wilford Brimley, who's here. If you've seen The Thing or Cocoon or The Natural or many other shows, he's probably wincing right now.
He was in The Firm, wasn't he?
Yes, he was.
The security, the bad security guy.
And he's here. I have to tell you, it's weird in these smaller places, and I do consider St. George to be a smaller place. You know, I'm used to Seattle or larger cities, and even Seattle's a rather small city when it comes down to it. It's amazing who you run into. When I was in South Carolina, I was a journeyman at the Warehouse Theater in Greenville, South Carolina, and Greenville, small place. I mean, very, very small place. I had a good friend who came, and I was saying, Greenville's growing, and they were in the middle of their spring parade, and a big 20-foot cow went by. I mean, that's how developed Greenville, South Carolina was at this time. And I was doing a show called Closer Than Ever, and I was playing man number 2. There were 2 men and 2 women in this. And it was a musical review by a pair, Maltby and Shire, who, they were involved in Miss Saigon and several other things before. But I was in my townhouse, which I rented with, 9 other actors from the company because we made about $50 a month. And I was singing the songs. And, I had never heard them before. This was a smaller show. I'm sure nobody else knew. And it was during the day. And there was this knock on my door. And I thought, oh, my gosh, I've been singing too loud. I'm disturbing the neighbors. And I answered it. I was like, hello. And this guy was there. And he was like, why were you singing that song? And I just said, well, I've been cast in the role. And I started doing my sales pitch for the Warehouse Theater. And he says, I know that song. And do you know how? And I was like, no. He had stage managed the workshop production of Closer Than Ever in New York City. And it was just weird. He and his wife had just decided to retire to Greenville, South Carolina. So I'll tell you, the longer I'm here in St. George, the more people like this I'm meeting. Which is why we're doing this show, to find out who these people are.
And I know most people come here, well, not everyone, but people come here to run marathons, do the recreation, and then they see that there's a whole entertainment side. There's a whole side that they can go and enjoy something in the evening. And I noticed that, too, that St. George is now doing a George Fest.
Right.
What is that? Because I noticed Cedar City is starting up one now, too.
Yeah,
so
it's really been going on now for, I believe we're in our 3rd year for George Street Fest. I think we're kind of going back to Street Fest.
Street Fest, okay. I got to get the right Street Fest.
I don't know.
Cedar City is George Fest North.
Yeah, I don't know what it is, but it's there. Sometimes you get into branding issues and who owns what. And,
silly people.
And so anyway,
and George has a problem.
Fest, So really what it was started as, it was started at the encouragement of the downtown merchants, who just wanted...
The merchants?
Yeah. They're the ones that... They came to the city and said, will you co-sponsor this with us? We're going to help fund it. And if the city will help fund it, which we now do through, the RAP tax, and we will have someone kind of manage it. And the whole idea was to close off just part of Main Street, and we also closed part of Tabernacle around by Judd's store, your your place where you're scared to go.
But by the way,
Yeah.
Judds, I will come in. Your soup is amazing.
Yes.
It is, isn't it?
We love Judd's, yes.
So we close those two legs, those two streets, if you will, sometimes even going the other way by Capoletti's. But we try to keep the roundabout at least half open so people can get through
Yes.
and go to those restaurants, because that's the point, is to have people be downtown. You know, we don't have a large downtown, but to get people downtown, going to live music that'll be on the main stage right there on the boulevard and Main Street. So right next to the Zions Bank and the little park there, we have the main stage. Usually have another couple of stages or venues where kids perform.
Great.
Sometimes it's karaoke like, but it's kids performing.
That's
and someone
fantastic.
does that, and people are dancing literally in the streets. I just told someone that today because he said there's some rumor you can't dance in St. George. And I said no,
What?
that's
What?
not true.
No, that's different than St. George people can't dance.
That's right.
That's
Yeah,
a difference.
Exactly. Or that John Pike can't dance, because that's
I
true.
want to see that.
Yeah. But they do. It's generally the first Friday of every month.
Okay.
We take a few months off. Let's see, I'm trying to think. We take off January, February. Can't remember if we take March off, but
Because of weather?
Because of weather,
Yeah.
just not as many people come.
Oh, interesting.
We can get away with it even in the heat of the summer. People come,
Yeah.
not maybe 5,000 people, but we'll get 1,000. And they have what they call the Jazz Garden, which is over there. Do you know the old Green Gate Village?
Yes.
Right next
Yes.
to, right behind Judd's.
Yes.
And Chef Alfredo's now.
Yes.
By the way, have you eaten at Chef Alfredo's?
I have not
Oh my
yet.
gosh, you have to go there.
We have to go there.
We're talking
Yep.
art. This is art of cuisine we're
Oh.
getting into as well.
Oh, you tell Chef Alfredo. You'll know him when you see him.
Right.
You tell him I sent you.
Okay.
And if you go on Friday, they have this awesome salmon.
Oh, fantastic.
No.
Yep. So, thick, big. It's just...
Oh, my word.
There's
and he
an
has so
art.
many things that are good, but that's my favorite.
If you're watching Facebook right now, you'll see there's a slight tear in my eye.
Yes.
You had me at
Because
salmon.
it's
Yeah.
getting close to dinner.
Well, anyway, Green Gate Village has been purchased by a new owner, and they're some of the same owners that are building the new City View project right now. That's adjacent to that, where there will be apartments and some retail and a kind of boutique Marriott hotel right on the corner
Ooh.
next to Bear Paw.
Okay.
So all this is going to work together, but right now that's where the Jazz and Beer Garden are. So yes, we do actually sell some alcohol in St. George too, and give people a chance to have some food, dance, enjoy some. Usually it's jazz, but sometimes it's even rock music live right there. And there's a little
Wow.
gazebo in that Green Gate Village. So go check it out on a first Friday.
First Friday.
First Friday. Usually it starts at 6 p.m. They start a little later in the summer because of the heat, and go till usually 10:30, maybe 11. Some of the venues might close a little earlier. They have booths, buy and sell, but mostly it's about music and dancing and just chilling, and so it's all ages, but it's mostly geared to kind of older teens and above. And we have some younger kids that come too, and we have some things for that. So it's and that spills over into Town Square as well.
Oh, and
So-
the town square is beautiful now. That's
So-
just beautiful.
So
Yeah.
come, check it out. And, it's not something that you have to necessarily go to every month, but it'll be a little different every month because
Uh-huh.
Right.
they'll have different bands. Sometimes the bands, it's tough to get them, So sometimes it's recorded music, it's a DJ, but there's always live music at the Jazz Garden. Always.
Oh, wow.
So go check it
Sounds
out.
very inviting. Yeah.
And there's quite a crowd. I mean, it's a very
I've noticed
diverse
that.
crowd.
yeah, as we drive by, we're
Yep.
usually never around to stick around
Yep.
for it, but we see
And
the crowd.
We
and
see the
it's-
spider and we go the other way.
Oh,
but
Well,
we're-
yeah, it's scary.
Stop.
Well,
And
just
please
wait
note,
till Halloween.
Oh,
Don't you
geez.
think we ought to do something
Oh,
fun?
please do.
Even a little scarier?
Please do.
Fun is a very general word.
Well, anyway,
I love that spider.
I kind of get a kick out of him too. In fact,
Yeah.
there was recently, you might have noticed the LDS Tabernacle was under reconstruction,
Yes,
renovation for couple of years, and they just reopened it and rededicated it. And so kind of one of our, in the LDS Church, there's kind of this leadership, one of the, we call them apostles, but we call him a patron saint. LDS apostle Jeff Holland grew up here. And so he came down, he was one of the officials that came down, and he actually rededicated it. And he made a remark along your kinds of lines, Michael, about that. Here we are at the sort of the vortex of my growing up and existence, and this is literally where the spike was driven as the center point of St. George, and there's a spider in the middle of the roundabout. So don't anybody tell him, but George Scott, you know George Scott?
Oh, yeah.
So he took an awesome photo of your friend, the spider.
Oh, goodness.
And it's so good, and it's kind of got some dark clouds in the back. It looks really ominous.
Fantastic.
And so I'm asking him to make me some cards, some note cards out of that, and I'm going to send one to Elder Holland and say, thanks for coming. The spider awaits your next visit.
Well, I'm going to say, Jeffrey Holland, I have a lot of respect for him, and I'm glad to know that he is my patron saint.
He could be your patron saint, yes.
And I do have to make a disclaimer here on a serious notion. Yes, it is no secret I am not a fan of spiders. I think, if we're getting, to biology and evolution, God may have made a little bit of a mistake with spiders. That's something
and
that
we hear it every time you see one when you scream.
Oh, my goodness.
I don't really like them either.
I know.
But I like the kind that don't move.
I like that stuff,
And that's where I do have to get a little serious with this. Even though, yes, that's where I stand on spiders. It is a pretty awe-inspiring piece of work.
Oh,
and it is a very well-crafted piece of work.
As you drive down Main Street, just seeing all that artwork, I can imagine somebody from out of town just thinking, what kind of place is this? This is fun. And
isn't that what arts are about? It's about questions.
And that's what we want to have, and Art Around the Corner wants to have these kinds of discussions happening, because it should promote and provoke conversation and thought. And what I hope is that when Elder Holland was here, he saw some of the other pieces out there.
Yes.
And
absolutely.
So everybody take a little time and walk up and down Main Street. There are some amazing sculptures in that Art Around the Corner.
Yes. Oh, it's beautiful. It's just the landscape.
And they won't always be there. Most of them will go away. They'll either be sold or they'll go back to their artist and they'll, try to sell them somewhere else. So if you see one and you like one, get your favorite business to buy it and put it out in front of their business.
That's fantastic. Yeah. Well, also with the, I was looking online and I looked up stgeorgecity.org.
Yep.
And I was noticing there's this art commission.
Yes.
Can you explain to us what is the art commission?
Well, the art commission, and many cities have something like this, but they are charged with, and they were actually formed and made a commission several mayors ago. Let me think. Mayor MacArthur, Mayor Brooks. It was Mayor Brooks.
Oh,
Carl
I remember
Brooks.
Mayor Brooks. Yeah.
Carl Brooks. He just passed away a couple of years ago.
Oh.
And he signed the resolution creating the Arts Commission. It's a group of, and the number is flexible, but around 10 people. They must be citizens of St. George, and they aren't paid. They generally meet once a month, and they are in charge of kind of coordinating the arts effort, whatever that may mean, in St. George. So they work closely to make sure that events are on calendars, that they're coordinating when things are. Not that they get to choose, but they try to, because they're coming from different arts groups or perspectives, it just naturally works that way, that they kind of coordinate and say, okay, here's when the Celebrity Concert Series is doing their event, and let's not do the Sweetheart Swing and Valentine's Day on the same night. So they just try to coordinate. Most importantly, they go through grants that are for the RAP tax, and they recommend to the mayor and council how we should spend that roughly $300,000 every year for the different arts groups. That's
What a
probably the
job.
most important thing they do, because that's hard,
That
because
is a
everyone
hard job,
could use 300,000, and instead we have a total of about 300,000.
wow.
So they get to go through all those grants and spend, and I've done it. Actually, I was the chairman of the Arts Commission, and that's kind of what got me into city government. I didn't intend to, but that's kind of what happened. So that's what they do. They also work with Art Around the Corner, so that they recommend, for example, if we're going to, perhaps if we have some money to purchase one of those sculptures, they will recommend which one every year. And
this is volunteer.
This is all volunteer.
Wow.
And they just do it because they
Great.
love it.
Yep.
In fact, I'm meeting tomorrow morning with the chairman of the Arts Commission she's brand new at her post as chair, and she wants to just kind of bend my ear a little bit.
Great.
So, actually that's Thursday morning. Don't want to throw you off out there. So anyway, but, all volunteer because they love the arts, and they're also trying to work with the city with some of the events we do, or we partner with some of these arts groups to put on, whether it's an arts walk periodically down Main Street to the galleries. We've helped with that before, and they're trying to restart those.
Good.
Wayfinding downtown, we're going to do some new signage. It's actually, I believe it's ordered now. They've been involved with that to make sure we get all the right venues on it. And so anyway, that's kind of the bulk of what they do.
Wow.
Well, I have to tell you, and I say this every show that we have, and this is my shameless plug here, Tuesdays and Thursdays, 4 o'clock on the arts. This time has flown by. It's already,
does.
we are at time.
Yeah.
Here we are.
And I want to thank you, Mayor John Pike, but yes, the mayor of St. George, and thank you for representing St. George, but also John Pike. Thank you for giving us the opportunity to get to know you and your stance on the arts. That's, of course, the point we have on Thursday.
Oh, yes, we have Mickaleen. She's a composer.
Mickaleen Ibsen?
Yes.
And singer.
Yes.
She's
composer,
wonderful.
Singer. She's done her own CDs, and we're so excited to interview her and find out about her life and her passion for music.
You'll love her.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, thank you, Michael and Christina. It's great to be with you.
Thank you again, Mayor. Thank you
And,
for all your support.
We just ask that if you are a citizen of St. George, or if you're going to be visiting St. George, or know anybody who's going to be visiting St. George, or know people you are going to encourage to visit St. George, invite them to take advantage of all of these opportunities we have. And until Thursday at 4 p.m. with Mickaleen Ibsen, we ask that you keep your attention and your focus on the arts.